Namaskar. I welcome all of you for this online CTET training program. And in this session, we are going to discuss about part 2 of the plant kingdom. So previously, we discussed about the living world, the part 1 of the living world, where we have discussed about cell and questions on cells. Now we are continuing with the part 2 of the living world that we are going to discuss about plant kingdom. So it is from the paper 2 of the CTET, science. So what are we going to do in this session? So the session follows like this. So first we will be discussing about the trend analysis, questions from this particular sub-concept, how the questions are being asked and what concepts they are focusing more in CTET examination. Then we will discuss about the concepts related to the previous questions that were being asked. Then we'll go with solving previous year questions, then a quick recap. So this is how our next 45 minutes is going to be, where trend analysis first regarding questions, then content discussion, then solving previous year questions, then a quick recap. So what are we going to focus in this session with respect to plant kingdom? So there are again like how we had important concepts and important topics on which CTET was testing. Same way, similarly, even plant kingdom also, we have most important topics to be covered. And from these are the most important concepts which are being tested in CTET. So let us focus on them. And what are these concepts? So these concepts are transportation and photosynthesis. So transportation in plants, how transportation of water and food takes place in plants. Then photosynthesis, that is regarding nutrition in plants. Then again in nutrition, the different types of nutrition, autotrophic and heterotrophic nutrition. So what are the plants that undergo autotrophic nutrition and what are the plants that undergo heterotrophic nutrition? And we should also remember that all plants are not autotrophic. There are some plants which are heterotrophic also in nature. Then the different types of plants, monocots and dicots. The difference between monocot and dicot plants also we have to discuss. Then classification, how plants were classified into 5 different groups. We have 5 different groups, like angiosperms are there, gymnosperms are there, pteridophytes are there, all these things are there. So how plants are being divided into different classes and on what basis, and how plants were evolving from the primitive plants to advanced plants. This is also one more thing. And regarding the reproduction with respect to flowers. So these are the most important topics which were being covered and which were being tested by CTET. So let us focus on these things. So flowers and reproduction lead, okay, how flowers are formed and what is the function of flower and anatomy of the flower, okay, reproduction, how reproduction happens in plants and all. So all these are very important topics, are very important concepts in this topic. So let us move forward and let us continue with the conceptual discussion here. The first and foremost concept, the important concept that we have to discuss in plant kingdom with respect to CTET previous year questions is the plant kingdom and the major plant types, okay, simple to advanced. How plants got evolved from simple plants to the advanced level of plants and how they were divided into 5 different types based on what criteria. Okay, we'll discuss that. So the primitive ones are Thallophyta, okay, then we have Bryophyta next, little advanced. Then from Bryophyta again we have Pteridophyta, then Gymnosperms, then Angiosperms. So what are the differences? Based on what criteria the plants were divided into different these things. So one was the structure, okay, the structure of plant, whether the plant has all the parts of the plant, whether true plant parts, whether there is a stem, whether there is a true root, there are leaves, there are flowers, all these things. Then whether they have vascular tissues, okay, whether they have vascular tissues or not, whether they have flowers or not. So these are these are the few criteria based on which plants were divided into 5 criteria. So let us see the major differences between them I hope all of you can see the slide here. So first we have Thallophyta, then Bryophyta, Pteridophyta, Gymnosperms and Angiosperms. So what are the differences here? What about Thallophyta? Thallophyta is very simple and primitive plant. Okay, it doesn't have true roots, stems or leaves. So if you can see the structure of Thallophyta, the plant, it doesn't, you can't differentiate the plant into different parts. Like it doesn't have proper stem, proper leaf or proper root system that you can see. So that is very primitive one. Then comes Bryophyta, where you can see this is also very simple one. Okay, little evolved from the Thallophyta, and it also doesn't have true roots, stems or leaves. It looks like there are stems and leaves and roots, but they are not true. They are simple structures which has false stem, false leaf-like structures, but there are no true parts that can be differentiated into different plants. Then we have Pteridophyta, okay, where you can see clearly differentiated into true roots, stems and leaves. So there is a stem, there is a leaf, there are roots also. So the plant parts are differentiated very clearly. So this is the first plant criteria where the complete differentiation of parts is observed. Okay, and along with that it has well developed vascular bundles also. Vascular bundles are used for transportation of transportation purpose, whereas in Thallophyta and Bryophyta there are no vascular bundles. There are no vascular bundles here. No vascular bundles here also. There are no vascular bundles. So this is the first plant type where you can see visible and differentiated parts of the plant, and also vascular bundles, well developed vascular bundles for transportation purpose. Then we have Gymnosperms. So you can see here. So they are seed bearing plants. So they also have, since they are developed advanced from Pteridophyta, so they have well developed vascular bundles. Along with that they are seed bearing, but these seeds are naked in nature. These seeds are naked in nature, whereas if you see all these doesn't have any seeds. These two doesn't have proper differentiation of parts, whereas this has parts, and this has Pteridophyta has complete vascular bundles, and even a Gymnosperms also has vascular bundles, but they also bear seeds. But these seeds are naked in nature. Naked means they are visible outside. Seeds are seen from outside, they are not covered by anything. Whereas if you see in Angiosperms, seeds are enclosed. Okay, seeds are present inside the fruits. They are enclosed by a fruit. If you see, fruits will have seeds inside. So that means they are from Angiosperms. They are angiosperm plants. So they are completely developed and advanced plants are angiosperms. So they have all plant parts, they are flower bearing, they have seeds, and seeds are also covered inside the fruit. So these are the differences between the divisions of plants. Majorly 5 types: Thallophyta, Bryophyta, Pteridophyta, Gymnosperms and Angiosperms. So Thallophyta is very simple. Then again Bryophyta is also simple, but it has false plant parts, but it doesn't have any true plant parts like root, stem, leaves and all. When it comes to Pteridophyta, that is the third one. Pteridophyta is the first one which is advanced, which has vascular bundles for for transportation of food and water, and it also has well differentiated plant parts. Next advanced level is the Gymnosperms. So Gymnosperms also has vascular bundles. Since it is it is more advanced from Pteridophyta, it also has plant parts, all the complete differentiated plant parts, and more than Pteridophyta, it has seeds. It doesn't have flowers. They are not flower bearing plants. They have seeds, but seeds are naked in nature. Seeds are naked in nature means they can be seen directly. Okay, they are visible directly to the eye. They are not covered by any fruit. Okay, whereas Angiosperms, they are flower bearing. They have flowers, whereas the rest of the types doesn't have any flowers, and the seeds in Angiosperms are covered inside the fruit. So these are the differences. So this is the evolution of plants from simple plant type, that is Thallophyta, to Angiosperms. So whereas you can see the differences from simple plants to the advanced plants. What are the developments that happened? So if we can see one major difference and one major one major advancement that is being happening in plants is structure of the plants, okay, differentiating into different plant parts. Then one more thing is vascular bundles. Then one more thing is with respect to reproductive parts, that is seeds and flowers. So these are the 5 types. So this is this is what that constitutes all the plant kingdom. Now let us move to another major concept, that is monocot and dicot. So this is very important. I want you to focus more on this even after the session, because definitely there will be a question, like most guaranteed concept to appear in CTET science is monocot and dicot. So how they will ask questions with respect to monocot and dicot concept is, so they will be asking the characteristics of monocot plants and dicot plants. Okay, so what are the differences? So and how to identify a monocot plant and how to identify a dicot plant without seeing their roots and all. So a monocot plants has single cotyledon, mono. Okay, mono means one cotyledon, whereas di means, okay, whereas di means two cotyledons. Cotyledons are nothing but the seed leaves. So this in monocots there will be one single seed leaf will be coming out of the seed, whereas in dicots there will be two seed leaves. Okay, seed leaves will be there. So this is one characteristics. Mono, from the word itself we can understand, mono means single cotyledon, di means two cotyledons will be there for the seed. Then monocots have parallel leaf venation. Okay, monocots have parallel leaf venation. If this is a leaf, we can see venation means the arrangement of lines. Okay, so there will be parallel in nature. Yeah, so what about in dicot? It has reticulate venation, net like. Okay, it has net like. You can see net like venation will be there. Venation is nothing but the arrangement of lines on the leaves. So definitely if it is monocot, it has parallel venation. If it is dicot, it has reticulate venation. So please remember these facts, because questions will be asked based on these facts only. Like for example, they might ask you if there is a parallel venation in any plant, what kind of plant it is. Okay, if there is a reticulate venation, what type of how many cotyledons will be there for the seed. That's how questions will be asked. Then it has, the monocots has fibrous root system. Okay, what do you mean by fibrous root system? The root will be fibrous in nature. So fibrous root system, roots will be like this, whereas in taproot we have, taproot system will be, okay, this is how root structure will be there. So root is completely like a fibrous in nature, whereas it is taproot, a single major thing will be there, and for that the rootlets will be there. So this is taproot system. So dicot will have this kind of system, whereas monocot will have taproot system. So what are the examples of monocots? These are the examples of monocots: rice, wheat, maize, bamboo, grass, banana. All these are examples of monocotyledons. Then whereas in dicots, if you see, we have pea plant, mustard, rose, mango, carrot, neem. So these are the differences between monocotyledons and dicotyledons. So the major difference are monocots have single cotyledon, dicots have two cotyledons. Monocots have fibrous root system, whereas dicots have taproot system only. So in monocots again we have parallel venation, and here reticulate venation. So these differences you have to remember, because questions will be based on venation of monocots, venation of dicots, and root system in dicots, root system in monocots. So these are the major differences we have to remember in order to clear the questions, okay, in order to answer the questions from this concept. So quick rule you can have, so parallel plus fibrous, okay, it is monocot. Parallel venation and fibrous root system means monocot. If it is reticulate and taproot, okay, if it is reticulate and taproot system, it is dicot. This is dicot. So this is how we have to remember. Then let us move forward to one more important concept from which questions will be there, that is flowers. That is with respect to flowers, pollination and fertilization, which is related to the reproduction in plants. Okay, reproduction is one more important topic. Okay, so in reproduction, two sub concepts are there again. One is pollination, one is fertilization. So mostly in CTET they will try to test whether you know the difference between pollination or fertilization or not. So most of the questions will be so confusing, asking the differences between, are confusing, telling you that there is a telling you the pollination and fertilization will be same, or when pollination occurs, when fertilization occurs, is it fertilization first, next pollination, or first pollination and next fertilization. So this is how confusing questions will be asked in CTET. So we need to understand which is first, which is next, and what is pollination and what is fertilization. So first it is the pollination that happens, next is the fertilization. So what do we mean by pollination? Pollination is a process where the pollen grains will be transferred to the stigma, right, from male reproductive part to female reproductive part. This is pollinations, where pollen grains will transfer from male reproductive part to female reproductive part. That is called as pollination. So this is called as transfer of pollen from anther, okay, to stigma. So stigma is female reproductive part, whereas anther is male reproductive part. So from anther, pollens will be going and they will be transferred to stigma. Then how they will be transferred? How? It is through by wind, water, insects and birds while they come, sit, on flowers and all. That's how they will be transferred. Happens before fertilizations. Once pollen grains are transferred to plants, then it is male gametes fuse with the eggs, that is ovule. So after fertilization, what happens? What happens to the ovule? And what happens to the ovary? Like we know that pistil is there, right? Pistil is there, okay? Here we have ovary and inside we have ovules, okay? Ovules, this is. So what happens to ovary and what happens to ovules? So ovule after fertilization becomes seed, okay? Seed will come from ovule, and whereas fruit will come from ovary. So this difference also you should be knowing. So there will be questions on this also. So produces the next generation, a result of reproduction. Okay, so then plant part, the anatomy of the flower also you should remember. Stamen means it has anther and filament. Okay, if it is pistil, it has stigma, style and ovary. So this is stigma, this style, and this is ovary. So try to focus on the diagram of the plant also, reproductive parts of plants, and what are the different parts in flower, which is the male reproductive part, which is the female reproductive part, and how pollination happens and how fertilization happens, and what happens to ovule and ovary after fertilization. So these questions will be asked. These questions were being asked repeatedly in the CTET. Then one more important concept in plant kingdom, that is plant nutrition. Okay, they are autotrophs and they perform photosynthesis. So mostly almost all the plants are autotrophic in nature. Autotrophic. All of you know the term autotrophic. Auto means self. Okay, self-preparing. So they prepare food and their self, and through the process of photosynthesis. So autotrophs make their own food through photosynthesis. How they prepare? Because of green pigment called chlorophyll. So what are the examples here? So algae, spinach, tomatoes, all green plants. So all those green plants, completely green plants, will have pigmentation called chlorophyll, and they will be preparing food using chlorophyll, and they are called as autotrophs. But there are other plants also which cannot perform complete photosynthesis, and they will have to depend on other plants and insects for their nutritional purpose. They are called as heterotrophs. So it is given fungi here, but fungi doesn't come under plant, but it is an example of heterotrophs. Heterotrophs means they depend on other organisms for their nutritional purpose. So fungi is one example of heterotroph, but which don't come under plant kingdom. Doesn't have chlorophyll, right? So Cuscuta is one plant which doesn't have chlorophyll, and there is one more plant, insectivorous plant, you might have heard. So picture plant. Okay, this is insectivorous. It feeds on insects. It does have chlorophyll, but that is not sufficient to prepare enough food for the picture plant. So it is an insectivorous plant which feeds on insects. So picture plant is one example of heterotrophic nutrition in plants, and Cuscuta. Okay, Cuscuta depends on other major plants for their nutritional purpose. So this is about nutrition in plants, both autotrophic and heterotrophic, and almost all the plants, green plants, are autotrophic in nature, whereas in heterotrophic we have like picture plant and Cuscuta. So remember photosynthesis chemical formula also. Questions will be asked. Apart from these, questions can be asked on photosynthesis formula also. Then so this is about nutrition in plants, autotrophic and heterotrophic also. Next, about water and food transport. Okay, conduction of materials. So how plants transport food materials, how plants transport water inside them. So, and what kind of tissues help them, what helps plants to transport? They are xylem and phloem. These are vascular tissues. So these are vascular tissues that help plants for transportation of water and food. So water is transported by xylem and food is transported by phloem tissue. So xylem carries water plus minerals from roots to leaves. So roots are the ones which absorb the water and they will just send it to upward. So it is one way in direction. So water has only one way direction, right? Whereas food, it is two way, can go in both the directions. So food is prepared in the leaf mostly, so it is distributed to all the parts wherever it necessary, and it can go in two directional way. But whereas water moves from bottom to up. So it is driven by transpirational pull. In the previous classes we were discussing about transpirational pull. Transpiration is a process where the plants lose the water from their tiny pores through the leaves. Okay, from the leaves plants leave the water, they lose the water through evaporation. So that is called as transpiration. And when this water will be going out of plant, there is a pull, a suction pull is created inside the plant, which helps the water to be pulled outside. So both tissues first appear in pteridophytes. So these vascular tissues are first appeared in what kind of plants? They are appeared in pteridophytes. When we saw the all types of plants, if we can go back, Thallophyta, Bryophyta, Pteridophyta. Pteridophyta is the first advanced plants where the vascular bundles or vascular tissues are seen for proper transportation of materials. Next we have under reproduction we have vegetative reproduction, where vegetative reproduction means reproduction happening through vegetative parts of the plant. So what are the vegetative parts of the plant? The vegetative parts of the plant are stem, root. Okay, if the reproduction is happening from these kind of vegetative parts, not from reproductive parts like flower, then it is vegetative reproduction. So vegetative reproduction is happening, it will be happening in examples like ginger. Okay, potato is a tuber, bulb is the onion. Okay, then even carrot also. So these are the different modes: budding, fragmentation, process. Fungi is doesn't come in plants, so don't just leave it. So this is vegetative propagation and vegetative reproduction. When reproduction happens in plants with the help of vegetative parts, that is called as vegetative reproduction. When reproduction happens with the help of reproductive parts, then it is sexual reproduction. Okay, where flower is involved, where there is male gamete, female gametes are involved, where there are pollen grains which are transferred to stigma and all. So fruits and vegetables. So which are fruits, which are vegetables? So fruits are the ones which has seeds inside them, like tomato, brinjal, lady's finger, fruits. So all these are the fruits. Why they are called as fruits? Because they come from flower and they have seeds inside them. So that's why they are called as fruits. Whereas others are vegetables. The vegetative parts are vegetables, like carrot is a root, sugarcane is a stem, and groundnut is a seed. Okay, so this is about vegetative reproduction and edible parts in plants. So these are few important concepts that we need to cover, and I hope you are clear. Now let us see how questions were asked based on these concepts. How CTET is asking or will be asking questions based on these concepts with respect to plant kingdom. So let us see a question from CTET January 2022. So the first question is, X is non-flowering. Okay, please go with the keywords. Okay, it is non-flowering seedless plant grown on land. Okay, what could be X is? Okay, they are asking X is a flower, it is non-flowering, okay, it doesn't have flowers, it doesn't have seeds, and it grows on land. What could it be? Okay, this is the question. The answer is fern. When we discussed about different plants and what are primitive plants and advanced plants, we discussed the primitive plants doesn't have proper differentiation of parts, it doesn't have seeds, it doesn't have flowers, and it is completely in the water. That is which one? Yeah, so Thallophyta. So it doesn't have yeah, wait one second. What is the question again? Yeah, it doesn't have flowers, it doesn't have seeds, it grows on land. Whereas even Thallophyta, even Bryophyta doesn't have flowers, seeds. Okay, but still there is one more keyword here. They grow on land. So it is fern. Okay, which is in Pteridophyta. It is seedless, non-flowering. Okay, but they have all the differentiated parts in the plant. So Pteridophyta, it comes under Pteridophyta. So option 4 is the right answer. Whereas algae is Thallophyta. Okay, algae comes under Thallophyta. Pine tree, it has seeds. Again, pine tree, so pine tree has seeds. So it is wrong answer. And orchid is a flowering plant. Okay, so fern is the right answer. Why not pine? It is gymnosperm. Okay, it has naked seeds. Why not algae and orchid? Orchid is flowering and algae is Thallophyta, which is in the water. Okay, it doesn't grow on the land. Next, the next question again from 2022. Let us see based on what we discussed. So these assertion type questions where there will be a statement and the supporting statements will be there, and the options will be like whether A supports B, whether statement 1 supports A or statement 2 supports A. So options will be like this. So this is one more type of question which will be frequently asked, and let us see this ones. So assertion A, carrot leaves have reticulate venation. Okay, the assertion is carrot leaves have reticulate venation. Now let us see the statements. Statement 1, statement 2, again there are statement 3. So statement 1 is taproot plants have reticulate venation. Statement 2, fibrous root plants have reticulate venation. Okay, then no relation between roots and venation. So definitely statement 3 is wrong. Because we discussed that there is a relation between root system and the venation in the leaf. So definitely it's not the statement 3. Statement 3 is wrong. Then fibrous root plants have reticulate venation. Is it fibrous roots that are having reticulate venation, or is it taproot plants that have reticulate venation? It is the taproot plants that has reticulate venation. So the answer will be option 1. Okay, A is the assertion and S1 supports A. Okay, so S1 is the one which supports A. Carrot leaves have reticulate venation. So carrot has taproot system and it will have reticulate venation. So carrot is dicot, it has taproot system, so it is reticulate venation. So why the rest fail? Because S2 statement 2 is false. Fibrous roots doesn't go with parallel venation. Taproot is reticulate venation, fibrous root is parallel venation. Then S3 is completely false because there is a relation between root system and plant venation. So with just by looking at the leaf and the venation on the leaf, we can say what kind of root system the plant or tree is having. So definitely there is a relation. So statement 3 is completely wrong. Then which are true? Okay, so again again the question is like, which among the following is true with respect to I think it is with respect to reproduction. Okay, so let us see the options. Option A, option B, option C and option D. So ovary matures into fruit. Okay, does ovary mature into fruit? Seeds form ovules. Seeds form ovules. Next, option C, pollination occurs after fertilization. Does pollination occur after fertilization? Option D, in pollination, seeds are dispersed. Does seeds are dispersed in pollination? Okay, then option E, fertilization happens inside the ovules. So which one is right? So definitely ovary will be developed into fruit. That is right. Seeds form ovules. Does ovules form into seeds or seeds will form into ovules? So it is other way. So seeds doesn't form into ovules, whereas ovules form into seeds. So definitely B is wrong. Number C, option C, pollination occurs after fertilization. So pollination occurs after fertilization. Fertilization means already the reproduction happened and next the seed formation and everything happens. So this is also wrong. First pollination happens, then fertilization happens. So in pollination, seeds are dispersed. So seeds are not dispersed in pollination. Pollination means it's about pollen grains. So in pollination, pollen grains are dispersed, not the seeds. So this is also wrong. So fertilization happens in the ovules. So let us see. So which is the right answer? It is A and D. So and here, ovary matures into fruit, fertilization occurs after the ovule, whereas the other options like B, C, D are wrong. Why they are wrong? Because ovules form seeds. Definitely wrong. Okay, ovules will form into seeds, whereas in the option it is given seeds will form into ovules. So this is how confusions are created in the questions. So we should be very careful while reading the questions. So C is also wrong because pollination is before fertilization. In option it was given fertilization is first, then pollination. It was given in ulta. Okay, that is wrong. Then option D, pollination moves pollens, not seeds. Okay, so this is how you need to understand the question. Read it properly, understand, then only you can answer properly. Next, one more question from 2021. The question is, plant Y has no chlorophyll. What could it be? So the meaning of the question is, a plant which doesn't have chlorophyll. What could it be among the options? So is it picture plant? Is it maple plant? Is it algae? Or is it cuscuta? So we discussed that picture plant is insectivorous in nature, but it does have little chlorophyll in it. So it is also wrong. So maple tree is green in nature, so it also has chlorophyll. And algae is definitely green. If it is green, then definitely it has chlorophyll. So the correct answer is cuscuta, which doesn't have chlorophyll. Okay, cuscuta is the one which doesn't have chlorophyll. Okay, it completely depends on other plants for their nutrition purpose. Okay, Cuscuta is a parasite. So organisms which depend on other organisms without killing those organisms are called as parasites. Okay, so why not picture plant? It still has chlorophyll, though it depends on other insects, okay, for their nutrition purpose. Yeah. So let us see one more question. This is based on the vascular system, okay, the transportation in plants. The suction pull that moves water upward in tall trees is caused by, okay, the suction pull that moves the water upward in tall trees is caused by. The meaning of the question is the suction pull that is created inside the plant. What is the cause for this suction pull? What causes this suction pull because of which water will be moving upward in the plant? So is it transpiration? Is it photosynthesis? Is it absorption, or is it respiration? So definitely photosynthesis is not the right answer, because photosynthesis is food preparation process. No, it is not. Then absorption, no, definitely absorption is not, because it's entirely different concept. It doesn't help in creation of suction. Then respiration, entirely different, the gaseous exchange part in respiration, whereas it is the transpiration that creates a suction pull, and transpiration is related to water leaving from the plants, okay, in the form of vapor. Okay, so these are few example previous year questions based on the concepts that we discussed. So mostly the questions will be from these concepts itself, because every time the questions will be arising from these concepts only in this plant kingdom. So please focus on these concepts more, and cover other areas also, but focus on these, and questions will be asked in this way. So let us quickly revise. So before going, please remember these facts with respect to plant kingdom. So fern is the first vascular and seedless plant. So it comes under Pteridophyta. Okay, Pteridophyta are the plant group which has well developed vascular bundles and which are seedless and flowerless. Okay, and dicots means they have reticulate venation and they have taproot venation. If they are monocot, they have parallel and fibrous root. So how there is a relationship between root system and venation of the leaf, okay, and how they are related to whether it is monocotyledon or dicotyledon, that is also one more important thing. And regarding pollination and fertilization, when pollination happens and when fertilization happens, what happens in pollination? In pollination, pollen grains will be released, pollen grains will be dispersed, and they'll go and they'll be transferred into the female reproductive part, okay, that is pollination. Whereas fertilization is fusion of male and female gametes, okay. Then after fertilization, it is ovule that becomes seed and ovary becomes into fruit. So this is one more important thing. So Cuscuta is the no chlorophyll plant, okay, doesn't have any chlorophyll, but it is a plant which is parasitic in nature. Transpiration lifts the water. So xylem is the one responsible for transportation of water. So how xylem transports water? It is with the help of that suction pull created by transpiration. Okay, so this is about vegetative parts and how vegetative propagation happens. So these are the important facts in this topic, plant kingdom. And I hope you all remember these concepts. So please cover more after this session also, and focus more on these concepts and minding the kind of questions that they are asking. So this is about today's session, and let us continue in the next session about part 3 of the living world. So we will be discussing about animal kingdom in part 3, and also animal kingdom is again divided into part 1, part 2, because animal kingdom, the content of the animal kingdom is more, and the questions were also little more from the animal kingdom. Okay, so this is the part 2 of the plant kingdom. We'll be continuing with the part 3 in the next session. So will conclude this, and thank you.